what is very, very important in terms of a factor in this election is the SIR process, because we're seeing massive turnout. We're seeing close to 40% as of 11 a.m. in terms of the actual turnout on ground. There are some constituencies which are as high as 44% already without even half the voting time being completed. And that raises a serious question as to what are the numbers going to be. Of course, a huge number of deletions have taken place, but how will this all play out? Also, a large number of voters in West Bengal are ensuring that if they are in other states, they come back to cast their vote, because there is a sense that if they don't vote, their names would be cut out. Of course, something that Election Commission and other bodies have clarified that that's not indeed the case, but nevertheless, there's a surge of those making their way back to West Bengal to cast that vote. But let me take this across to my colleague Meghna. Meghna, which way will SIR sway Bengal's voters is a very, very big question, because there are several key constituencies where the number of deletions have exceeded the win margin of 2021 assembly polls.
Absolutely. In fact, we are talking about the uncertainties. This is going to be the biggest one, which is why the question really is going to be on the pollsters and their predictions. How accurate can it be? Because this time, the goalpost has changed. This is why. For example, you look at Howrah South. The number of deletions in this area, Madhav, is 83,267, which is way more than the win margin of the TMC. Last time around, Howrah South was won by the TMC with a victory margin of over 50,000. But now in this constituency alone, the SIR deletions have been to the extent of over 83,000. Will this really change the equation? We'll have to wait and see. Similarly, in Chaurangi, and these are all the areas that we are focusing on because they are the phase 2 seats. You have 62,000, over 62,000 deletions of SIR which has happened. The 2021 margin of victory for the TMC, again, these are all TMC strongholds, was 45. So if, for example, TMC won with about 45,000 votes, this time around the number of deletions is way more than that. Will this impact the TMC vote bank? Well, that is the big untested. Similarly, you have Kosipur, Belgagachia. In fact, here the number of deletions have been 62,000, and more than that, the victory margin is 35,390. Similarly, in Shyampukur, you have deletions of over 51,000 SIR, and the victory margin. And all of these are TMC bastions that we have seen. The victory margins are way more similar. Statistics and data coming in from Srirampur as well. You can see, Madhav, here, interestingly, the victory margin and the deletions, the number of deletions is literally double of what the victory margin is. And all of these, again, let's remind you, are TMC strongholds. So let's go across to our panelists also who are there joining us on the show. Madhav?
Yes, we have Mr. R. Rajgopalan, senior journalist who continues to be with us. We have Shekhar Iyer as well. Of course, he's a senior journalist as well. We also have Saurabh Chandra, national spokesperson of the TMC. Let's quickly come across to you first, Shekhar Iyer. What is the kind of impact that we see in terms of this entire election having, on ground? All right, I believe we have Sanjay Jha, author, also with us. But Shekhar Iyer, coming to you first. If there is such a huge difference between the victory margin and the total number of deletions, and some of them, or a large number of them at least, are in TMC stronghold constituencies, what's the impact that it will have on ground, Shekhar Iyer?
Well, initially, I think TMC leadership was quite perturbed about these deletions being more than the victory margins. But then later they have said that in terms of demography, I mean, this is something that TMC leaders have been saying, that almost 60%, more than 60% are Hindus and the rest belong to other communities. So I don't think any conclusion can be drawn on this. But TMC has been saying that on the basis of this deletion and the harassment that many voters have gone through to get their verification done, that will have generated an anger. That's what Mamata Di has been constantly talking of, an anger over center, anger over election. I mean, that playing out as a time when the voter gets to vote. But I'm not sure whether that will be the anger, because they are trying to say that this will drown the anti-incumbency. In fact, many who are part of the Trinamool ecosystems have been saying this anger will drown the anti-incumbency feelings. But one is not clear that how exactly this will affect the turnout.
Saurabh Chandra, let me bring in quickly. Saurabh Chandra, we'll also be going across to the Ganga Expressway where Prime Minister Modi is making a big Vikas push. So you have two big agenda setting narratives which are being panning out. On one hand, what's happening in West Bengal, the second phase of elections. On the other hand, you have the big Vikas push. But Saurav Chandra, a quick word from you before we move on. Are you worried that the victory margins are at times 50%, even less than that, when it comes to the SIR deletions? And all of this, a lot of them are in your strongholds.
Well, if I have to actually be worried about this, then I will have to presume that the entire deletion figure, which is being shown and which is greater than the victory margin, the entire deletion is that of the TMC voter, which would not be a very fair assessment.
Which isn't true. Yes.
Yeah, so which would not be a very fair assessment. Therefore, and also my previous, the previous analyst spoke at length about, how the demography of these deletions have been. So more than, it's actually the numbers are 64.3% are Hindu votes and 35.6% are minority votes. Therefore, to actually presume that the entire vote which has been deleted belongs to us, that would put us in a tricky situation, which is not the case, I'm sure. Because if I were to assume that to be true, then I would have to question the entire SIR exercise, saying that this was actually targeted at deleting the Trinamool vote. So, with the independent election commission claims that, no, this is not true.